Being successful at sales is a lot more of a science and process. You present the right benefits at the right time to the right targets, and you should be successful.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Entrepreneurship 101. And hello to those that are tuning in online through the webcast. Tonight's lecture on B2B sales is going to focus on the principles of selling value to your customers. With an emphasis on the challenges faced by technology startups, it's going to cover tips for dealing with stakeholders and distributors and how to successfully close a sale and follow up with potential customers. Mark Elliott, who you just saw in the video that we showed, is the co-founder of Venture Accelerator Partners. It's a company that provides part-time sales and marketing assistance to growing firms. He has over 20 years of experience in sales, marketing, and management. And VA Partners has worked with over 80 companies in the last 10 years. Some of their successes include closing a $4 million opportunity for a clean tech firm and leveraging social media for an account that led to over $100,000 in sales. Please welcome Mark tonight.
So first successful task, I didn't trip up the stairs. So I'm looking forward to having a successful presentation for the rest of the day. Just so we can get a good feel for everyone, what kind of businesses and organizations people have in the crowd today. Can I get a show of hands of how many people here are a solopreneur? You're the coal company right now. Quite a few. And what about maybe small firms, maybe 2 to 10 employees? Yeah, okay. And what about maybe larger firms, maybe 10 to 50? A couple, and then 50 plus? Okay, one. And who here loves to make cold calls? I got a couple people, so this is the guy, maybe we'll get him up in the cold call session. And how many people here are your primary responsibility for sales and or marketing for your organization? Most of the people. Okay, well, you're in the right spot. We're going to talk about B2B sales and how it can help you with probably the most challenging component of a startup. You think, hey, I've got this great solution. It's going to sell itself. People will be beating down my doors. Unfortunately, it doesn't always happen that way. We're going to go through a lot of stuff today, and we're going to have time for questions as well. You can also see on the bottom of the page, I've got the Entrepreneur 101 hashtag, as well as Mars DD Twitter handle, and mine, Mark E. Elliott. So feel free to tweet away, share your comments and your feedback. So in terms of what we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about buyer behavior. We're going to talk about value proposition. We're going to talk about targets, types of sales, some process tools, including CRM, cold call, social selling, other sales tactics, meeting plans, international sales, great resources, and of course, we'll have some time for questions at the end. So as was told before, my name is Mark Elliott. I'm the co-founder of Venture Accelerator Partners, and we've worked with organizations over this last almost 10 years to help drive millions of page views, hundreds of meetings, and millions of dollars in revenue for our clients and ourselves, in fact. So can anyone name what kind of fish that is? Anybody? Sailfish, yes. So I was lucky enough to be down in Costa Rica actually last week. And it got me thinking, fishing is actually a lot like sales, right? So I'm out, I'm presenting an offer, I might be working at it all day. I'm trying to use some expertise from the captain. I need tools like the boat. I need to try different bait. I have to try different spots, and I might get a bit lucky, right? And we were actually very lucky that day. We had 5 sailfish that we were able to get into the boat. So it's quite a fun day. But I've been out before fishing when we've got 0 fish, right? And that's what sales is like. Some days it's awesome and you close a deal, and other times it's horrible and you don't speak to anybody, or do speak to somebody and they're not interested in talking to you about what you want to talk to. And one of the things I think is people think sales is this this special witchcraft, the special art. I think sales, being successful at sales is a lot more of a science and process than just the art. I think it's similar to fishing. You present the right benefits at the right time to the right targets with the right frequency, and you should be successful. I think one of the big things that people have that's kind of happened from a B2B sales perspective, and sales in general, is switching from internal focused process to thinking more about how clients or customers or prospects make decisions. I think people get fixated on how they go through their sales process, but it's also really important to understand how your prospects and customers make decisions. How are they getting information? And today versus even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, is significantly different in how people are going through their buying process. They have access to more information before you may even talk to them than they ever have before. So it's really important to understand the buying behavior of your client and select the right sales and marketing tactics to support it. I talked about it a bit about in the video, but it's really, I think people, when they have this great solution, the shiny object, that they get fixated on what it does and not how it can help their prospects or their customers. And really, you want to focus on what are the benefits for the person and the organization that you're trying to sell to. And really, there are 4 main drivers from B2B sales. Can it help them increase revenue? Can it help them decrease cost or expense? Can it make them make their organization more productive? And can I avoid something bad? And something bad, I said in the video, could be bad PR, it could be an employee getting injured, it could be a bad customer experience. There are lots of things that organizations will want to avoid from a bad perspective. And one of the things that's gold is if you can quantify the benefit to your target. And why that's important is, I would say half the battle is getting in front of your target. That could be on a telephone call, that could be through a webinar, that could be face-to-face, but half the battle is getting there. And if you can help your prospect understand what's in it for them, what's in it for their organization, really succinctly at the beginning of the interaction with that organization or that person, it's going to help significantly get that opportunity for you to sit down and talk with them. Or, when you're doing that outbound email or when you're writing copy for your website, think about the benefits. Don't just think about what your solution does. And you may need multiple value propositions. If you have a complex sell, you may need to have a different value proposition for different contacts within the organization. Maybe the business unit leader has a certain value proposition. The finance person has a different one. And also think about how you're different than your competitor. Because if you're, I think most are fair to say, that most of the people here have fairly new solutions to the market. People are getting by without you somehow. We don't know how, but they're getting by without you somehow. It could be because they're already using a technical solution, or maybe it's as simple as they're using an old process and it's status quo and they don't know yet that they need your solution. But they're doing something else today. So you have to understand why your solution is better or different than what they're currently doing. And if it's exactly the same, then you have a commodity situation, and then you're into selling on things like price, which isn't a great long-term strategy. It's really important as you get started to try to focus on the right target. Where do your benefits match up best with what organizations and individuals are looking for? Organizations will often say, hey, I've got this great solution. Anybody can use it. And to me, that's very dangerous because you can spin your wheels going after lots of different types of organizations or contacts without finding the right one for you. And so I often think it's great for organizations to break things down by verticals. So, focus on a vertical. Maybe it's healthcare. Maybe it's retail. whatever it is, focus on that and get really great at that, because you'll notice that people in that space will use certain words. Problems will be similar between different organizations. And it allows you to get really good, and then you can expand from verticals out from there. Maybe you're focusing on hospitals. Next thing you know, you're working on dental clinics. Next thing you're working on veterinary clinics. Then you're working on something totally different. But it's an extension of that vertical. The other way to go about it is as a horizontal focus. Does anybody here know the name FreshBooks? A couple people, yeah. Maybe some of you use it. So FreshBooks has more of a horizontal application where they're really focused on kind of the size of an organization or the number of people, like a solopreneur or a small firm. And again, it's one of the great Toronto success stories from a tech perspective. And they really have more of a horizontal focus than a vertical focus. You want to leverage your knowledge within that horizontal or vertical to own that segment. And find who the best contact within that organization is for your message. And it's always, I like to say, you want to engage as senior within the organization as possible. Because you want to get as close to the decision maker as possible, because it's quite easy to get pushed down within an organization. It's often hard if you come in very low to go up. So get as close to the top as you can. And also the people close to the top are more incented, I think, to really make decisions based on the benefits of the organization. You need to be prepared, but I think that's really one of the best ways to go about it. What type of sales is best? I think the great thing today is there's a number of different options for organizations. It could be direct right to the end user. There could be channel partners that you would work through. It could be more face-to-face, or it could be more of an inside sales perspective. One of our first clients, approximately almost 10 years ago, we helped them close a client in Ottawa. Never met the client. Everything was done over the phone for about a $75,000 solution, right? So even if you're selling expensive things, you don't have to necessarily meet people face-to-face to get it done. One of our best clients, we've never ever met them. They're based in Alberta. And they do rescue for and emergency services for the oil and gas industry. We've never met the client face-to-face. We've only done work over the phone and a webinar. And we've only seen our client buy pictures from the website and things that we've worked with them on together. And also don't forget about marketing. And one of the things we're going to talk about later today is inbound lead generation. And how the marketing department can support sales. And I think today is a situation where you need to have a website. Because if people talk to somebody, first thing they're going to do is they're going to go to your site. In fact, maybe the first thing they're going to do is going to go to your LinkedIn profile. So have a LinkedIn profile, have a website. And we're going to talk when we get to the inbound lead generation about things that you can do to help support the sales process. At the beginning too, you may need to do some unnatural things to get your early sales. You may need to, one unnatural things am I talking about? I'm not talking about going to the graveyard at midnight or those sort of things, or going to that scary house at the corner of the street that no one ever goes into. I'm talking about maybe doing cold calls, maybe doing going to networking meetings, and even though the cost or the size of the deal doesn't support an outbound or a face-to-face interaction, you have to do those things to get those early customers, even to get those early rejections. So you learn what to do and also what not to do. And when you're formulating your strategy for your long term from a sales perspective, understanding what your cost of sale is, understanding what kind of margins, what the revenue, the lifetime revenue is for that client, can help you determine what the best path forward from a sales perspective. Inside salespeople cost a lot less than a senior outbound person. Working with channel partners, again, is another way to reduce your costs. So there are lots of different things you can do to have a cost-effective sales effort. Inbound lead generation. I think this is one of the great things that startups can take advantage of today. And this is more of a marketing piece than necessarily a sales piece, but it really helps to support the sales effort. And so, what am I talking about? I'm talking about, things like creating blogs and downloadable assets like white papers, and using email marketing, and using social media, and using some really simple SEO tools to help create content that people can find you through organic searching on the website, but also content that you can share through social media channels, through follow-up emails, those sort of things. You want to make sure you have a great website. And if you're starting from scratch today, it's really easy to get a WordPress website. You can buy a theme for $50 or $60 and have a really professional looking website where you can control the content and also have a solution that allows you to grow, but also use a lot of these great tools that are available to help drive SEO and help drive downloads to your site. And I think I'm a firm believer in a good inbound lead generation strategy. And at the beginning of your journey as a startup, or as you're growing your firm or organization, this inbound lead generation, it's the great thing about writing blogs, creating white papers, social media, and email marketing. A lot of these things are very inexpensive, right? It takes your time, which when you start a company, sometimes that's what you have. So, I would say, that's something to take a look at. And, if anyone here familiar with a company called HubSpot? Yeah? If you're looking for really great information on content marketing and inbound lead generation, check out HubSpot. Also, I would also say check out Moz, which makes a really great SEO tool that we actually use a lot as well. Lots of great content. It's probably never been a better time to be an entrepreneur than now, right? You've got events like this to come to with great speakers. You've got lots of information like on the Mars website to go to. There's lots of people that are having webinars, lots of free content for you to get and to use as part of your arsenal. One of the things I talked about in the presentation is understanding the steps in your sales process. And why that's important if you have one or if you have 50 is it's important if you have one because you want to make sure you're doing the things that are repeatable. And if you add that second person or the next person, you want to make sure that they understand and work with you to help define what those steps are. And if you're a large organization and you're trying to onboard employees quickly, having that defined will help make that onboarding much quicker. And if you use we're going to talk about CRM in a little bit, but if you use a tool like Salesforce.com as an example, it has this different steps kind of built in, and you can add or delete the ones you don't like. But one really simple methodology we like to use is the six-step funnel. Starts with prospecting, which is sort of the those targets that you maybe are trying to get into, you haven't been able to contact yet, or maybe somebody that's come into your website, where you then have a qualification opportunity, which is a time to talk to them. Understand if your solution is a good fit for them, and vice versa. And then I'm proposing a solution. That could be a presentation, could be a proposal, could be a webinar, could be a demo, as well as then closing. That's when they said yes, I want to buy your solution. But we typically don't still say it's shipping or it's rolling out, or we're gonna do a happy dance until they actually pay for it or take possession of it or sign a contract. And the stage that no one likes to talk about, it's like Voldemort, close lost, which is often where you will learn more than when you win. And I think making an opportunity to talk to organizations when you don't win and individuals and find out why not helps you be more successful the next time. So don't be afraid to look at those. The other thing I think is really great for organizations is, everyone's fixated on revenue, right? Which is great. You want to be fixated on revenue, but you want to understand the activities that help to drive the revenue. And as your early stage, and before revenue, or maybe you're at revenue here and you want to be at revenue here, is put activity targets in place. How many calls do I want to make? How many networking meetings do I want to go to? How many proposals do I need to send out? Because those things come before the actual revenue. So if you have targets on those can help you, farther down the road. One of the hardest things to do is to handle objections. Somebody comes to you with something, that's contrary. Handling those objections can help significantly in many parts within the sales process. So, create a document that helps you identify what those objections are and how you would handle them. You may know what they are in your head, but write it down, and then you have it with you as a safety blanket. And what you'll find too is then you'll start to find more objections that you need to face, or if you're working with a different vertical or working with a different target. So that's going to help you. As well as doing things like making email templates. I would say you don't want to send the exact same email every time, but maybe 80% is almost the same. And if you've got ones that are significantly different, like different verticals, then create a template for each vertical. As well as creating telephone scripts. Maybe once you get going and you're used to it, you don't need it, but create it ahead of time. It makes it much easier as you go through. So how many people here that are the primary salespeople for their organization are using a CRM? So not a lot of people. Someone says, yeah, kind of. CRM is kind of a dirty word for salespeople, but to be honest, I think it's a must-have. If you've got one employee, even if you have just yourself, it's a great way to be organized, and it's a great way to have. You have to have it in place as you scale your business. You're going to want to know you're not going to be involved in every single sales opportunity down the road. There's lots of great things you can do about tying it directly to your website and having leads automatically populate into it. So yes, it is a bit of extra work, but it allows you to capture that knowledge as you go through the sales process to be successful, even if it's down the road. And what kind of things, how do I use it? How do my clients use it? We like to track, the accounts and contacts, past activities. So what conversations have we had? What emails have we sent? I also want to capture my future activities. So I talk to somebody and they say, well, I've got a contract for another year, so I'm interested in talking, so follow up with me in 6 months. So I put something in that I'm going to follow up with them in 5 months. So they can then start trying to reach out and get a hold of them, so I can get ahead of the next decision that they're going to make. And again, if you're not doing that, you're relying on your memory. Oh yeah, I should talk to that person. Well, guess what? They've just signed a renewal with their existing provider. Other great thing is you put your opportunities in there. It gives you a high visibility on those opportunities. It'll also allow you down the road to forecast your revenue, where the more opportunities you have, the better understanding of what it takes to go through each level of the funnel allows you to be more better at forecasting your revenue. Excuse me. You can add notes on customers. Leads can come in at the beginning of the funnel. You can have a process to go in and qualify them. And it's a great way to share information if you have a team, right? I'm not going to send that email with the contact details, what happened in the meeting. Go into the system and take a look. And one of the key components of having a CRM is, if you're the sales leader and you have sales reps, or if you're the sales leader and you're presenting to the owner or your board of directors or board of advisors, is the funnel, using an opportunity and creating a funnel with inside a CRM is a great way to showcase how you're doing, what you're expecting, those sort of things. And there really should be no reason not to. Zoho is a CRM that is free for 1 to 3 employees. Insightly is a free CRM. There's a more expensive model that you can get, like a freemium. There's Microsoft Dynamics. They have their solution in the cloud now. And one that we like and we use a lot is Salesforce.com. Connects to a lot of things. They do support the Canadian ecosystem by buying up Canadian companies. Hopefully they continue to keep these Canadian companies keep innovating and keep people in Canada to work. But it's, it does cost a bit of money. Group Edition, I think, is about $25 a user a month. If you can't afford that, then Zoho or Insightly you can get. But you should have something, and there's no excuse not to. So we're not leaving here today until everyone says they're going to commit to having a CRM before they leave. I don't know how successful we're going to be, but we're going to try it. And probably the worst thing about being in sales is doing cold calls. The good news is there are lots of ways today that you can avoid doing cold calls. The bad news is sometimes you need to do a cold call. And it's absolutely the worst part of the sales process. And one of the things that I think, so here's some of my tips to turn that cold call into a warm call. I think people often get mixed up when they do a cold call. A lot of times you're not trying to sell them the solution. You're trying to sell them on a time to talk in greater detail, right? So, don't think you have to close them. Think you just have to get their commitment to talk in a scheduled manner in the future. Keep it simple. You want to research the organization and the contact. If you're not on LinkedIn, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. There's so much great information on LinkedIn that you can get, even with the free edition, that helps you be prepared for that call. Make sure you're talking to the right person. Don't call the head of marketing about cost reduction strategy. Talk to the finance department. Have the right message. Focus on those benefits. Prepare for the objections you're going to face. And so you can get great at handling them on the phone. Again, not to close them for a sale, but to schedule that time for a webinar, a demo, another meeting, a face-to-face, whatever it is. Find the right time to call. A lot of organizations, the leaders they get in early in the morning and they often leave later in the day. And their maybe executive assistant shows up a little bit later and leaves a little bit earlier. So if you can call maybe at 8 in the morning instead of 9, or maybe call at 5 or 5:30, you may get through to that person you're trying to get a hold of versus calling at 10 o'clock when they're in meetings and the gatekeeper's in place. And if you hate doing calls and you have to do them, then block time in your schedule. Don't answer any inbound calls if you know it's a service provider or your family member or even another team member. Be focused, block time in your schedule, and make those calls. And celebrate the successes. I work with an organization before I started working with startups, where we had a trophy for Cold Caller of the Week. It was a simple, old school telephone glued to a piece of wood. And whoever won the Cold Call award that week got to have the trophy in their possession. And it was more making it fun, right? How many meetings we're able to book out of that process. So make it fun. Celebrate when you do get that meeting or get that call, because it is hard. And when you're successful, it's really rewarding. Now, and I'd say, well, and does it work? So as an example, in terms of a cold call in combination with a cold email, we worked with a client recently where we helped them close about $500,000 in business 2 weeks after the initial point of contact, from a cold call. Does it happen every time? No, but it still can happen and can work, especially depending on the target that you're going after. Now, good news is there's something called social selling. Is anyone here into social selling? In a good way. Anyone here into social selling? Yeah. Anyone? Anyone here on LinkedIn? Most people. How about Twitter? Lots of people. Those are really the two best platforms for the most part from a B2B perspective. This is just an example of a lead that I found through Twitter. And they became a client approximately 2 weeks later. And the funny thing about it is he sells social selling. So I use social selling to close him as a client. So on LinkedIn, get connected. Explore those second connections. If you have a paid account, send email. use it for research. And one of the things I think that people don't do enough, and I don't know why you don't because it's free, is post updates, status updates on your LinkedIn profile. And if you don't have a company page, create a company page and put updates there as well. It's a really great way to stay top of mind, to keep, with prospects and customers. Shows up in their LinkedIn. I'm not being in their face. I'm just saying, don't do 20 in a row, but try to do one a day, just as an example. And it's amazing. Even I was posting an update saying I was, presenting here today, and I had a number of people, oh, Mark, I remember you presented last year. I wanted to get together and talk. Like, really simple stuff that jogs people's minds. And Twitter. Anybody here know of a company or use Hootsuite? And this is another really great Canadian success story. They're based in Vancouver, but that's okay. It's still part of Canada, right? And it's a really great tool, and they have a free version, I think up to 3 different accounts you can have in the system. And it's a really great way to organize yourself on Twitter. You can create lists. You can create a list for prospects, if you can find their Twitter handles. And if they're tweeting out things that may be of interest to you, you can have extra focus on it. You can create lists of great third-party resources that you like to share. You can use it to schedule tweets. It seems like you're all over social media when really you're spending about 15 minutes in the morning a day getting your messages scheduled throughout the day. And don't be afraid to engage. So, I knew Jamie was looking for something, and I sent him a message, and he responded back, and I was helpful. And even, I sometimes respond back to people that are looking for restaurant recommendations in Leslieville. Anybody here from Leslieville? East Side. The great thing about LinkedIn and Twitter is there's lots of great sales triggers, right? So on LinkedIn, when somebody gets a new job or leaves a company and goes to a new company, that could be an opportunity for you at the company you just left from because they were a pain to deal with, and you're glad they're gone. If they're a great contact of yours, then it's an opportunity at the new company they've gone to. And I would say, LinkedIn and Twitter, I use them every day. And I think if you're a full-time in sales, or if you're the primary salesperson, you probably should be using LinkedIn and Twitter from B2B perspective almost every day. Other sales tactics. So again, research. There's lots of great information. LinkedIn, data.com. I don't know if people are familiar with data.com. It's an open source database of contacts that you can add in contacts and get points, or you can pay for a subscription. But it's a great way to find people that are really hard to find. I still like sending targeted individual emails. And I know that there's Castle. People familiar with Castle? It's Canada's anti-spam law. Castle does not prevent you from contacting people with an email. You can't be basically bulk email spamming people, but you can send targeted direct emails to individuals, especially if you've targeted for them. And I would say if you're going to send somebody a specific email, target it for them. Put their name in it, put the company name in it, talk about how you're going to help them, mention maybe something that's on their website. And another really great thing, especially when you're getting started, is networking. Networking, I think, is one of those things like social media where you can spend too much time or not enough time. And networking, it's often you want to network where there are other people like you. I think you want to network where your customers and prospects and business partners are. Look for those opportunities. And if you're a little bit shy, and you maybe are kind of afraid to make that first contact or connection, and this is a great thing to do in lots of sales situations, is just ask them questions and listen. Hey, great, is this your first time you've been at the event? Tell me about your business. It gets over that awkwardness of, hey, here's who I am and here's what I do. You're asking them, you're getting it. And then when you get that information, you can tailor your message back to them, or you can get out of that conversation, or you can maybe make a recommendation for somebody else that's there that they would be good to talk with, right? So look for those opportunities as well. Has anybody seen? Does anyone know what this movie is? And want to shout it out? Tommy Boy. It's actually filmed in Canada. Did you know that? Distillery District, East Side, respect. It's filmed in the Distillery District. And, I think one of the, if you're a salesperson, basically Hollywood hates salespeople. Think about Boiler Room or Glengarry Glen Ross. These are like the worst people in the world are these salespeople. And I think, Tommy Boy, again, he's a bit misguided, but as you watch the story and go through it over time, he actually gets better, and he gets better by practice. And he gets better by asking questions instead of just spouting off what he thinks the answer should be. So that's why I have that picture, and Canadian connection. I think one of the things when you have a face-to-face meeting or a meeting on the phone where it's scheduled is ask lots of questions. Ask open-ended questions. And the reason you want to do this is you're going to get information about that client that you can then use as you talk. You want to talk about things that they're going to be interested in. Want to understand where you can help them. And I actually have a meeting. We use a meeting plan for each meeting we have for ourselves or our clients. And really it's broken down to a few different parts. What's the introduction? Who am I meeting with? Why are they interested in meeting with you? What are they hoping to get out of the meeting? What are you hoping to get out of the meeting? What are your goals and what are the next steps? I think, I'll talk to a lot of organizations that said, we had a great meeting. Well, how do you know that? Well, the demo went really well. Okay. What's the next step? I don't know. Maybe they're going to call us. I don't know, but it was a great meeting. I think you want to have your next steps set up. And it's a great way to also gauge the interest from the client. And I often ask them, what would you like to see as the next step? I have an idea of what I would like to see because I know how a sale will typically progress. But I'm going to ask them what they would like to see as well. And when I have meetings, a lot of times I'll spend almost the first half of the meeting, if it's an early meeting, asking questions before I get into about the solution. International sales. Is anybody here selling their solution outside of Canada? Yeah, a few? Good. Yeah, and I think, again, I think international sales can be a really, great way to grow your business. We're right beside, the biggest economy in the world. We happen to, for the most part, I would say in Canada we speak English and French. There's a lot of English-speaking countries. There's a lot of countries where English is a second language, so it's quite helpful. If you speak other languages, even better. Je parle français un petit peu. And that's about all I know in French. But I think the big thing about doing international business is everything's a little, I would say more, maybe, it's more expensive to go see the customer. It takes more time to get a hold of them. Your window you can contact them if you're dealing with somebody in Europe is about half the day, right? Just as an example. So I think you want to be prepared and do your work for it. The great news is, again, there's lots of great resources. So through Mars, getting market research, Department of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, they actually have trade commissioners based in Canada that can help you if you're trying to go organize a trip. They can connect you with the trade commissioners in country. And I've gone to places like Abu Dhabi with the clients and had the trade commission help organize meetings and make introductions. So it's a really great solution. In Ontario as well, there's an Export Ontario, which does a number of things, especially if you're in IT. So they actually do help organize trade shows. So they do shows to places like Las Vegas, to places in the US. They also, with Department of Foreign Affairs, actually organize shows for people to come here from other countries, from Europe, from Latin America, from Asia. They have money available if you've been in business for a number of years and have so much revenue, it will help you pay to go to trade shows. So there's a lot of really great programs, again, out of the Export Ontario group. And really they have a big focus on technology and clean technology and biotech, which is kind of how Mars is aligned as well. So those people are, if you go, willing and interested to help you be successful. So seek out those folks. And also, if you're going to go someplace, look to tap into the expat community. The great thing about being Canadians is there's a few of us everywhere, right? Except maybe like LA or something where there's lots of us. But there's a few of us everywhere. And often there'll be organizations that you can tap into and meet people and events that they organize. So those are, again, other great things you can do as you're starting to explore other geographies. I say try to do as many things as you can remotely to start, save money, be selective in where you want to go, and even find partners that can help you take care of in-country things, or help you with understanding how local, the buyers in that geography buy, right? Or deal with language issues, all those sort of things. Talked about, what a great time it is to be in a startup, and there's lots of great resources that are available. That gray thing up there, that's a book. It's made out of paper even. But if you're going to get a paper book or an ebook, Rainmaker is a really great book if you're just getting started in sales. Lots of really simple things like don't drink coffee on the way to a sales meeting, because invariably sometime you're going to spill coffee all over yourself and look like a fool when you go to that meeting. When you go to a restaurant, seat your, tells you, where to sit. There's a lot of really great little stories and things to help you as the art, more of the art, I would say, than the science of sales. If you happen to be streaming in from Waterloo or from Hamilton, there's a sales peer-to-peers in both geographies. Waterloo actually has 2 sales peer-to-peers. They have a senior sales and a more of a tactical sales group. So those are really great things. And even if you're maybe here and you're on the west side of the city and in Mississauga or something, and getting out to Communitech is good. Or if you're down in Oakville and Burlington, check out the Innovation Factory in Hamilton. Mars has an awesome website. They've just done a bunch of reconfiguration of the site to help you basically by subject matter area. So you can find some really great videos of sales experts. But you can also, there's scripts, there's research documents, presentations. It's really a great amount of wealth. And I think, I get inbound leads from people from other countries that say, hey, I saw your video up on Mars, and I wanted to talk a bit further. It used to be a magazine, and now it's just a website, but Profit has a lot of great sales and marketing information. There's actually an article today on how much it costs for different types of sales reps. So again, if you're trying to build out your team and you're looking to understand costs, there's a really great chart that's up there. Entrepreneur and Inc. are really great, I would say websites. They have magazines, but websites to go to check out tactical and strategic sales and marketing. If you're looking for social selling, check out Sales for Life. It's a Toronto-based organization. They're one of the leaders in North America for social selling. They blog every day. Lots of video blogs, lots of really simple things, lots of free content up on their site. And also, don't be afraid to check out the Venture Accelerator Partners website. We blog twice a week. We have a white paper up on startup sales, so it encapsulates a lot of the things I talked about. We have a white paper up on growing your sales team. So if you're going from maybe 1 or 2 to a larger team, there's information there for you as well. So again, show of hands, how many people are going to get a CRM before they leave? Or tomorrow you're going to get CRM? All right, well, most of you can go, I guess, yeah. So that's it for me. We're going to open it up for questions. So if there aren't any questions, either they did a really great job or a really lousy job. So hopefully there's a few questions. Any questions? Yes.
Hi, thank you for the talk. That was awesome. It addressed a lot of our questions. So me and my co-founder here, we're a Mars company, and we just made our first few sales. So we have about...
Congratulations. Ring the bell.
Yeah.
All right.
No, we celebrated for sure. We didn't even cash our first check. We just kept it. But so we basically make an enterprise software for corporate wellness.
Yeah.
And we've been talking to a lot of companies, including some of the bigger accounting firms who've been interested for a long time.
Sure.
So Well, the sales that we were able to close weren't even the people that we targeted, were people that heard about us along
Sure.
the way. So
Yeah.
they're small companies.
Yeah.
But for the bigger targets, there are very long sales cycles. So
Yes.
I wanted to ask a question about that, about how do we shorten, is there any tips for shortening sales cycles for large organizations above like 500 or 1,000 people?
Yeah, like unfortunately, the bigger organization you deal with, the longer the sales cycle, because they're going to have more process typically than a smaller firm, because there's more decision makers. It's a higher dollar value. You may need to go to RFP. Unfortunately, lots of things. So I think with that, what you can do for some of those is, if you're doing outbound efforts, is try to, if you're selling corporate wellness, target the firms that put a high value on corporate wellness, because you don't need to sell them twice. One, corporate wellness is important, and then they should get your solution. Sell them on your solution if they understand corporate wellness is important to them. So if you're from the outside looking in, how can I find those opportunities? The other thing I would say too is, I'm not sure what you do from your website from a content marketing and inbound lead generation.
Yeah, we have that, and it's awesome. So for example, Facebook from UK, their HR is currently assessing a situation. So we have like their full contact, email address, everything. But now we're not going to contact them because I don't know.
Why aren't you contacting them? Anyways, we can talk offline, but I would say, if you can find those, like the challenge with just cold calling is you don't know when the other company's ready or interested, right? The thing with inbound leads is you have some idea that they're interested. So if I have an email newsletter, if I have a white paper to download, I can get their information, and then I can make a decision on contacting them and understanding what's going on. And then I would say if you can, one of the big things about organizations is getting in the door, right? So if I can use LinkedIn as an example and find, if you've got a couple clients, who are those people connected to that can make an introduction for you, right? Or who do they think may be interested in the solution? And try to leverage that by identifying people through LinkedIn to get that early into the door. So then I'm in the door quicker. They still may need to have, understand what the process is to get going. And use the CRM and record everything. Because the people that have really long sales cycles, a year later, and if there's 2 years out from making a new decision, then you can start working on that opportunity and you have a good idea that they may be a fit.
Yeah.
And I guess there's no really simple answer to the.
Yeah, so we use Streak, which plugs right into Gmail. So for everybody else too, it's free. It's a great CRM that plugs right into your Gmail, so that works well. And my last question is that you didn't talk about Inc. I wanted to know whether or not what the story is with them.
It's just, Inc. and Entrepreneur are just they have really great sales and marketing resources on the site. So that's more about what it was about.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks. Good question. Thanks for asking.
I just wanted to say that we were very lead heavy business, my business, and we were using Google Docs for a very long time, and we were advised to switch, and I said, we're shoestring, why do we want to use this? It works fine on Google Docs. We switched, so we tried out Zoho. It was free, and it was the best thing we did all year by a lot. We have tons of leads, and you could search the amount of data and reports you can run, and that it integrates with everything. We did it because it was free. Salesforce might have been better, but just wanted to reiterate it was by far the best thing we did all year.
Yeah, that's great. It's a great. Thank you for sharing that. I think it can help reduce a bunch of challenges, and if you can get them in and actually in your system, you don't have to enter it yourself. You know that they've got some interest, and then you can decide who you're going to follow up with, or you can use some other marketing automation to get in touch with them as well.
And just one tip with that is Zapier, because Salesforce integrates with everything. Zoho maybe not as much, but if you use Zapier between the things, it's an app that connects basically all the different apps. So we use that too.
Great, thanks. Anybody else?
I'm going to take a question from the webcast. Do you have any tips for email subject lines and length of email if you're doing cold calling through emails?
Yeah, one of the things I really like to do is I like to send cold emails. I know it sounds like I'm a crazy person, but when I call, if I'm a cold call, I call and say, hey, I'm just following up on the email. Did you have a chance to read it? I stop talking. Yes, I remember it. No, I haven't talked about it. What's in the email? So it's a really great lead-in. You don't have to do a lot of work around. In terms of sending in cold emails, make sure you have a powerful subject line, because the first challenge is for them to open it, right? Second thing I would do is make sure that you've got it targeted to them. You mentioned their name, mention the company. mention things that are specific about the organization. If it's a big enough opportunity, you should take that extra bit of time. And really focus on the benefits. There's a really great book called Selling to Vito, where Vito is a very important top officer. It's like a crazy old book when people used to use fax machines. So, but what he talks about, the writer is, make it almost like a newspaper article. Highlight the benefits, make it really short, have a call to action. So those are the tips I would provide. And if you want a blast from the past, go read Selling to Vito. Thanks online.
Hi, my name is Jafar. I'm from a company called Lupio. And my question to you is around the concept of, and you already started touching on cold emails, but some people say that you should not do any cold calls anymore, and what's called cold calling 2.0 is the way to go.
Yeah.
What do you say around dealing with the concept of just completely eliminating cold calls?
I think, some businesses or organizations, you may have the luxury of doing that. If you've got a really great inbound lead generation engine, you may not need to do it. I think the reality is when you're getting started, you need to do unnatural things to be successful, and that could be cold calling. It really also depends on the industry. We have one client, this client I kind of touched on, they do oil and gas. They provide emergency services to oil and gas in Alberta. And that industry is still a pretty blue collar industry where people aren't using social media as much, so social selling's harder. It's harder to find who the contact is. They don't go to networking events. They're geographically spread out. They may be up in Fort Mac, right? And there's, it's hard to run into them at a networking event. Or they may be even more remote. So for that vertical, cold calling works really well. Okay. And so I think it really depends on, if you have a very tech savvy target market, then maybe, you don't need to do cold calling. But I think when you're starting out, you may need to do it. To give you an idea, for our business, for VA Partners, we don't do cold calling anymore. We have 50 to 70 inbound leads a month. And between networking and people coming to us, we don't need to do it anymore, but that wasn't the case in the first couple of years. So good question though.
Thank you, and I just want to make a plug as well. So we're a new startup. We're 3 co-founders, and we are generating revenue, and we're at a point where we're hiring a sales and marketing coordinator, so someone who can deal with both outbound and leads. So come talk to me, Jafar from Lupio.
All right.
So a lot of, I guess, your strategies and stuff were directed to your end user. What if you were trying to get into like a retailer, distributor, or catalog or something? Would you use the same type of techniques, or is there something more?
So you've got a consumer product, is that what you?
Yes.
So the thing with consumer products is I have to sell it twice. If I'm using a channel, I have to sell it to the channel that it's worthwhile to use my product, and and then they have to help me sell it to the end user. So a lot of the things we talked about are fundamental still when you're dealing with the channel. There's a buyer, there's different decision makers. The people are going to be on things like LinkedIn, right? So what you end up having to do is they become the sales targets. They become almost like the end users. I have to create a strategy for the different retailers I want to get in. I have to prioritize which ones I want to go to. And even if you get on the shelf with those retailers, or listed on their website, whatever, you still need to help them sell it. That's training, it's setting targets, reviewing with them, so all those sort of things. So I think when people have a really great consumer product, they forget that they still have the B2B side to get it into the channel where they're trying to sell it. So a lot of the same tactics and things will be applicable to that sale as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask about cold call conversion rates and success rates.
Yeah.
And at what point can I invalidate my messaging? Like, is it a volume game and I'm expecting to get 1% of returns, or am I looking at 20 to 30?
Yeah, I think you can do things to improve your rate by calling at certain times, and being educated before you call. But it's we're talking probably 1 to 10% success rate. So it's not you may need to in some cases you may need to make 100 calls to get somebody to move forward. So it's not, I would say that cold calling is not the best return on investment, but in some cases it's necessary, and for some verticals, it's one of the better ways to still sell, unfortunately, right? So, I'd say, if you kind of have to do what you kind of have to do, especially at the beginning,
Right.
before you get the inbound leads, and you can be, if you're waiting for people to call you, waiting for people to email you leads, it's not going to happen right away. So
Great.
I think you can do things like, and I think one of the things people should take a look at is social selling. So using LinkedIn, using Twitter to get introductions to people that would be more warm, right? Or the great thing about if you send a LinkedIn email, as an example, or even a message to one of your contacts, they often see it twice. It shows up in LinkedIn, and it also shows up in an email to them. So some of those things you can do if you maybe have a higher success rate than just cold calling.
Great.
Okay, great, thanks.
Hi there. So the question, we have a legal software. It's huge in BC. They want to come into Ontario. Company owns about 60% of the market share.
Is it Clio?
No.
All right.
And in Ontario, this one company owns 60% of the market. No one knows about this new product. It's better. What are your next steps to get in? And remember, starting from zero, out in BC, everyone knows them. Out in Ontario, no one knows them.
Yeah. So I would do things like if you have customers in BC, do any of those firms have maybe people here that they know that they would introduce you to? Can you understand why people would try that software? Like, are there things about firms that would be the early adopters? Are they trying other types of legal software? So I know if they have that, then maybe they'd be interested. But yeah, dealing with legal firms can be challenging. They're very frugal often. They're not always pushing the envelope from a technology perspective, let's say. But there are lots of, in the industry, it's one of the big industries being disrupted right now is legal, both on the tools they use, how they deliver their service, and also law firms themselves. So, and there's a couple of really interesting firms like Cognition that has a virtual in-house teams that or in-person teams that they share part-time. So I try to find those organizations that are pushing the envelope on other technologies and that are complementary, and focus on them and see if you can leverage people that maybe worked at law firms out in BC and have moved to Ontario. And as an example, with LinkedIn, you can actually do that. You can search on people that used to work at a certain firm and have a certain title and are located in Ontario now. So, that's one of the, if you're not using LinkedIn and you're doing B2B sales, I feel sorry for you. So, but you'll do it. Any other questions? Questions online?
Mark, thanks again for joining us for another very valuable lecture.
Great, thank you very much.